Welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I am Nerder Doug, and tonight I aim to solve the riddle of steel with this nerd.
Nerdarchist Ted, how are you doing this fine and lovely evening, sir?
Pretty good, all things considered. I was just telling you before we started about my lawnmower woes today, but that was just a minor bump in the road of an otherwise great start of the week.
Indeed.
Hey, hold on a second. My cat's pulling in the cord here. Get out of here.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like having the holiday off. It definitely is set some things a wonky for me, but it is what it is. Ready to roll into our week of things, and for today, we're talking about weapons.
Yeah, pretty cool topic. I mean, all of the characters carry them in all the games in some form or another, or it comes up.
Indeed, I mean, even if you've got some kind of implement, most of them, or some of them can even fall into the weapon category. Yeah, fisticuffs.
Yep, there's always that.
Doing those 1 point of damage plus strength.
Mm-hmm.
So like without going into magic items or any of that kind of
Sure.
stuff, you have a default weapon that you feel like you fall to?
No, I don't, and I'm glad I don't, because that's like sort of one of the points I have. It's like, I'm good at math, but I don't really care about like the deep, complex math of games and stuff. And
Right.
I know that like certain weapons, over time or whatever, they just do more damage, right?
Yeah.
But like for the most part, it's like it doesn't seem like, again, I should preface this as we often do, like the kind of games that we play, it just doesn't matter that much.
Right.
I mean, if you wanted to be like a whip master, it's like, okay, I mean, 1d4 as opposed to like 1d8 of a rapier or whatever. It's like, I mean, if you want to, I guess my point is like, if you want to be like a weapon master character, whatever thing you do is going to do a bunch of damage not because of the base weapon damage, because of like all your feats and maneuvers and all that stuff. So to that end, I don't care, just whatever seems cool to the character, to be honest with you.
For many years, I fell into the default. If I'm playing a martial character, it's a sword. It's a long sword. It's a great sword. They tend to have the higher DPS, damage per swing, if you really want to get it.
Yeah. Was that why, or did you just think swords were cool? I'm curious.
Both.
I mean, really? Okay.
It does fulfill, that angle. And
sure.
Yes, I, as Ted, always have loved the sword.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
how could if you're a fantasy nerd, you must like swords. I mean, it goes hand in hand a little bit, right?
I mean, there's swords hanging up in my living room. There's
yeah. I need a sword now that I'm a homeowner. I should have a sword.
I totally feel that everyone should have their own sword.
I need to get one. I'm gonna make a note of that. Sword.
But nowadays, like, I try to use things that are different. I try to make things that are reasonable choices for the character that I'm playing. If I'm going to play a dwarf, the dwarven mindset of weapons are more than just weapons. They are tools as well. So to have things that function along those lines, warhammers, battle axes, war picks, can do things beyond.
I think I've always thought a pick's a cool weapon, man. Like, for a lot of reasons. I played a ranger in Adventures League, actually dual wielded a pick and a sickle or something. I don't know. I actually just did it because I got a cool mini in there. It was holding like a pick and whatever the other thing was. Like, yeah, that's cool.
Thorgarn's preferred fighting style is warhammer and war pick. So
that's awesome.
That was his thing, but I haven't found.
It doesn't get much more dwarfy than that, right?
I have not found a magical war pick yet, so.
And that's cool. That's also cool because it's like different damage types. I mean, even if you're into like the crunch, like, hey, if you're facing skeletons, I'm gonna hit them with my hammer because they're vulnerable, I think, right?
In 5e? I don't know if they're vulnerable, but like in the earlier editions, I know they were.
Yeah, I think they are. I think they're vulnerable to bludgeoning, which is, kind of like dovetails with like the classic fighter, and it's kind of like a joke now of like carrying the golf bag of weapons. But there was like a reason for that, like, back in the heavily combat dungeon delving days, it's like you wanted to maximize your survival, then you're going to use a bludgeoning weapon against a skeleton, and like you're not going to use a piercing weapon against zombies and things like that because they were, more resistant to them. Did you freeze up? Yeah, I think Ted froze up. Well, let's see. I'll go on for a little bit and see if he pops back in. There's a comment in the chat from Sleepy Gun, potentially hot take. What's both our opinions? I can't answer for Ted unless he pops back in. On a net weapon with the infusion returning weapon on it. That's funny. Raw rules state no reason it wouldn't work. That's totally true. I just was looking into that myself the other day. We had a meme about it. And yeah, I think it would work. I don't know the purpose. Well, I guess the weird thing is by raw. Oh, Ted's gone. Okay, maybe he'll pop back in, so I'll just keep it going. But by raw, the creature would still be restrained unless it made a save or the net was destroyed despite not being on them at all. So that's kind of weird. But I guess, I thought about that when I was, thinking about that meme. It looks like Ted's popping back in, so we'll get him in a second. But it seems like totally ridiculous. Windows are getting messed up. I'm just going to keep it going, man. Let's see. There's Ted popping back in. Let's see if the windows go back to normal. He was the last one to log in. It looks like he's moving. Does he have audio?
Yeah, I apologize. I don't know what's going on with my
I just
internet.
Kept talking, man.
It's been
we're good.
Really
I was
crappy.
Sleepy Gun's question, and you can chime in.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right.
I was just keeping it going.
So,
can you hear me?
I heard part of that. I can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay.
The whole idea of carrying the different weapon types to hurt different things.
Yeah.
That's something that doesn't really happen as much. In the 5th edition games.
Right.
But
I think more often in 5th edition. Oh, it looks like Ted froze up again, but I'm just gonna soldier on through. I think in 5th edition, though, it's more often that enemies are just vulnerable to something like that, like skeletons to bludgeoning, whereas in earlier edition, they're resistant. So, or they just straight up did half damage. So in that regard, it's not as important either. But to finish what I was saying about Sleepy Gun's question, as ridiculous as it seems that they would still be restrained, at the same time, it is a magical effect, so I don't think there's any, it's not so ridiculous to think like, oh, why would they still be restrained? The Nexagon, it's like, who knows? It's had magic on it. Maybe it magically restrained them, and that's the magic of it, is that it returns. So, I don't know. Ted dropped that again. We'll see if he comes back, or who knows? Maybe Dave will save the day. I'll try to send him a text. Maybe he'll pop in. Save the day. We'll never know. But I can, there's Ted coming back. But yeah, I'm getting to talk a lot and answer questions. That's pretty cool. So I got to check that off the list. Ted's back again. He appears to be frozen still, though. Somebody has cast hold person upon him. Nope, then he popped. I see movement a little bit. Looks like, yes.
Hopefully, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? I can hear you. Can the people in the audience hear Ted? Nope, he's frozen again. Oh my goodness. Disastrous.
I don't know what else to do. I've got everything closed.
Well, I don't know. I'm putting my talking to the test though tonight. I think I'm holding my ground. I was channeling my inner Ted and just giving extremely long answers to things. And I am going to try to currently just trying to think of some funny creative ways to make use of it. Yeah, Sleepy Gun, for net stuff in general, we made a character build guide, just a character that specializes in using the net, even, just trying to maximize what it is good at and minimize the drawbacks. I believe it's the Ultimate Gladiator character build guide, which is over at DM's Guild for pay what you want. So you can pay $0 or pay $1 million. But yeah, it's got like a level by level breakdown. There's a post on the website about it too with a preview of it if you want to check it out. And as always, those always have like a creature version in them too. So there's like I think it's just a Gladiator champion or something like that. Arena champion, that's what it's called. But
can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
All right, excellent. So the
concept. Wow, I kept that going, dude.
You did
I'm gonna give myself a Barry Horowitz for that one.
you absolutely did a great job to keep things moving. Taking things from the chat. I kept hearing bits and pieces, and I greatly do apologize. I don't know why my net is totally tanking.
It happens, man.
Gonna do the best I can here with this chat, and we'll keep this going for as long as we can.
Sure, sounds great.
But the concept of tools as weapons, things that are more than just implements of destruction, are things that some classes, some races, kind of take into account. I think first and foremost among them, I honestly feel should be like your ranger, your barbarian, who are used to being more wilderness aspect characters. The sword, the only thing it's used for is for killing, whereas like your axe can be used to fell lumber. If you go in the direction of certain pole arms, they can go into more, axe or more defensive type things.
For like hunting boar and stuff like that, right? You might have like
especially go with that typical boar spear.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. So like I like to think about those things when I'm making my character, regardless how martial I'm tending to go.
Right. And it's interesting because like if you think about that and like kind of divorce of like the damage they do and just think about like what would this character use, what would they have, you can wind up with lots of interesting choices and directions for characters. Like say you had even like a wizard or something that's like a hermit or whatever. It's like they probably would have an axe and things like that because it's like they're just living in the wilderness. I mean, they do have to do those things, chop wood and stuff like that. And their tools. And one of the things I was going to touch on that's like relevant here is like, I mean, obviously it's a huge detriment to not be proficient in some, but you can use those things. You just don't get your proficiency bonus. So it's like in a pinch, I mean, a wizard can pick up a sword or a spear or whatever and have a chance, right?
There's always a chance.
I played your campaign with the Tabitha is not proficient with a great sword at all.
That's true.
Really used it, but I did a couple times. I even had a feat and used the riposte.
There you go.
So
and I think those kind of things where you make fun choices, it adds a little bit more nuance to the character. It gives you a reason for certain things, and then as the GM, you've got the ability to like, well, how can I reward this choice? What can I do? Can I put in a weapon that grants proficiency? Can I, put in something that, an NPC that's going to teach said person how to use said thing, or every which direction that you might want to go with it. Everything can beget a choice, both as a player and as a GM, and even just choosing that weapon. Of fun to it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like the more I'm thinking about the characters I've played, like choosing which weapons they carry or would I their default thing is like a pretty big decision for me. Now that I think about it, it's like it says a lot about them, I think, or at least in my mind it does, right? I'm thinking back to like I played in a campaign a long time ago on 3.5, but it was sort of like Dragon War sort of thing, and as you know, there was tons of feats and all that stuff. So I built like a Final Fantasy Dragoon sort of the guy that could like jump really far, and he was good with the spear.
Of course, yeah, Kane, man.
And like that was a big part of that. Or more recently, I played a one shot. I played a Twilight Cleric, and we had a Morning Star because I was like, well, that just seems like a cool Twilight Cleric-y thing. It sort of looks like a star and stuff, and it does decent damage and like. That's the thing. I mean, I mean, if you're looking for like those little incremental, like this one does 1 more damage on average, then I can't help you there. But if those little differences, especially littler ones, where it's just like a D6 instead of a D8 or whatever, don't make a difference to you.
Well,
I mean, a ton of variety. I mean, the quarterstaff alone. One of the most popular posts on the website is like quarterstaff, not so simple after all. It's probably the best weapon around. Period. It's like you can wield it one-handed or two-handed. You could wield two of them. It's like it's got reach, I think. It can be used with Sentinel and I think Polearm Master. It could be your focus for your wizard. I mean, it's a pretty darn awesome all-around weapon, and it's like technically like 1 gold piece or something. I mean,
it is. It is simple in its design, complex in its ruling. There's definitely a lot to it, and when you look at Gandalf and Lord of the Rings, that staff around, it makes it look cool. It makes it look badass. And I honestly feel that, there is definitely some attributes to that. Because in previous editions, the staff was absolutely like a two-handed thing. You were not one-handing it, even though like there are, other instances,
it was actually like a knightly fighting style. I mean, not like in battle, but it was like something they, trained in and stuff like that.
I mean, it's a good starting thing because of how useful it is and how it is to kind of pick up and begin using, have a sharp cutting edge that's going to, deal with you. And, I'm certain that there's people out there who probably get sick and tired of me talking about the little bit of sword fighting that I've done.
You don't talk about it that much.
But, when you talk about an edged weapon, and I studied a little bit of axe, a little bit of dagger, a little bit of spear.
Oh, really? I didn't know you did.
Yeah, it was all part and parcel of the same set of training.
That's cool.
And dealing with the different style of weapon definitely gets into that word choice, that style, because let's be fair. If I'm going to swing a sword one-handed versus two-handed, versus an axe one-handed or two-handed, the styles are vastly different. The grips are vastly different.
Sure.
Therefore, the styles wind up changing alongside of it, with you. So all of those things do build upon each other, because certain things will help one another. So if you're going to fight with a staff, well, a good step up would be, fighting with an axe, because blocking things with your haft is necessary. So like the space in between your handholds is where you're going to want to get your block in, and not in front of your face. These things that you
and in D&D, that's sort of like a natural migration too, because they're both one or two-handed weapons. So it's like, okay, I mean, you're wielding them different, but it's like, oh, you're used to that. If you want to think of it thematically.
Right. But when you get into, the actual bladed object of a sword, very few people actually, understand the concept of, well, yes, you can actually grip the blade of the sword as well. You don't tend to go into battle without gloves on, and there are times it's necessary. So like you can kind of bring in, some of those similar concepts, and it's.
I mean, I've seen Excalibur at least 25 times, so I know for sure that in real life, knights would black like that.
But
Speaking of which, have you ever made a character just because you saw like something in a movie, even like a minor character, like that dude looks cool with that unusual weapon or whatever? I'm gonna make a character.
All right. So
many times.
To be fair, I will absolutely say that I made a D&D character based off of Darth Maul.
Oh yeah.
I had a
with the
double bladed sword.
Or
so he was an orc, because we played an orc game.
Was this 3.5?
3.5. Yep.
Okay.
And he had the double bladed sword, and Dave totally threw in basically like the lightsaber style.
Oh yeah.
It basically looked like a candlestick, and we had it in our possession for like sessions, not knowing what it was, because we didn't have a wizard in the party. We had no way to figure out what things were, and I don't even recall exactly how it came to be, But when like we finally realized, and this energy blade came out of one side and then came out of the other, I'm like, oh! So like,
nerdgasm.
Yeah, totally.
Sure. I was thinking of Excalibur at the end of the movie. Remember when they have the big battle against Mordred, and Lancelot shows up and he's all like scraggly and his armor's all rusted, and he was wielding like a morning star, and I think he had like a short sword in his other hand or something like that. I totally was just like, yeah, man, I'm gonna make a dude like that, just like an X-Knight, wild, he's got the morning. I don't know. I think morning stars are cool. They're very thematic, I think.
So, to be fair, and we're talking about weapons, so this is totally on point. I hate the names Morningstar and Flail, because in my brain they are wired differently.
Because of Castlevania?
I don't know whether it's Castlevania.
Yeah, because in the original Castlevania, his weapon was called a Morning Star, and it was like that long thing with the spike.
Yeah. So
I think that's why I like
yeah. In my brain, the Morning Star is you got a haft, you got a chain, you got that is Morning Star.
Simon Belmont,
and
he was spreading misinformation.
So the flail, the actual weapon that is the spiked ball and a chain, I absolutely love in games, but will never ever fight with in real life, because
it seems really hard.
If I swing things around, I am for sure hitting myself.
That's kind of like a specialized weapon. I mean, I think it's a farming tool, but like I think it's designed to like dent armor and stuff and like wrap around and like it's like many of those weapons that were used in medieval times had like a purpose. It wasn't just like I'm going to use a flail because it's cool and stuff. It's like no, it did something. It's like it had a purpose, like hammers and staves and all that stuff. Some questions here in the chat from Sleepy Gun says, thematically, do you reckon that the Sea Oath Paladin with pirate background would be good for it, meaning using the net, I believe, that he was talking about. I like the idea of pirate paladins with them having ceremony, so it's like a real sea captain. That's pretty awesome idea, yeah, pirate paladin. And I would totally have that guy wield a war pick and reskin it as an anchor or something, too. That'd be pretty cool.
I mean, that I could see a lot of different, there's a lot of things that fall into the, and I will totally get into the pun, a pirate's wheelhouse.
Using a wheel as a shield would be cool.
I mean,
like the captain's wheel as a
shield. Of course. The old awesome. Basic is, cutlass and pistol, and if you're not playing with pistols, you could totally
hand crossbow.
To a hand crossbow, exactly.
Oh man, if you're looking for inspirational art, by the way, for that or just fantasy pirates, man, I like the Wayne Reynolds like Pathfinder stuff. I think I don't know the name, but it's like the iconic pirate.
Sure.
The lady with the tricorn stuff. Just Google that. Freaking awesome. With like the pistol.
But I mean,
sword.
Yeah, I would totally go in that direction. Pirate or sailor both work as a Oath of the Sea paladin. That's
that's another one of those campaigns I'd love to play, like be a player in like a long running one. I mean, not super long, but like pretty,
Well, I mean, depending upon how long our Tuesday game goes, we can always switch out to a new campaign and opposed to a game in the stars, a game on the waters.
Yeah, that's true. I like that kind of stuff with like open voyages and stuff. It's the Trekkie in me.
Sure. I mean, we did a video on vehicles that we filmed this past week. So little teasers out for those
cool.
And there's a handful of different vehicles that fall into the realm of like the mobile headquarters.
Oh yeah.
Boats.
Dude, back in the day, my friend Brett, who I gamed with a lot, loves like getting into. I've talked about. He's the guy that likes like he wanted to like go furniture shopping for their ship and all this stuff. But we were just playing a 3.5 module. Like I think it was a Sunless Citadel, and we started a campaign, and he wanted to like get a wagon, and he literally drew like blueprints for like this is what I want to do to it, and like and he like we were all gnomes, I think, and he's like we're small, so if we buy a human sized one, we can make a like 2-floor apartment in there. And I was just
I mean, that's you can do all of those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he just gets so into that. He's like drawing like architectural plans for it and stuff.
So is there any weapons that you feel like that you would avoid? Is there anything you feel like, nah, I don't need to go in that direction?
Honestly, no. The only weapon that I never the only one that comes to mind of something, and just because I just think it's kind of dumb, is a sickle.
Okay.
It's like I get it, it's a tool and everything, but it's like it's like too much of a tool to me. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like even when I see it like cool art with a person holding like a a weaponized sickle, it's like it just looks dumb.
I'm kind of in that same boat. That was
Oh really?
pattern that I had. Yeah, like I can see using the full on scythe and going to like
Sure.
the war scythe that it's almost like a pole arm kind of thing, and
yeah, that's just so ridiculous and outrageous and fantastic.
It's like, whether you go in the direction of like it's a scythe and it's thematics because it's a wizard focus, or it's totally like a a pole arm fighter master style thing of like,
yeah.
I'm going to reap my enemies, or your total cleric,
right,
like I will reap the souls and claim them as my own, like those kind of things are cool concepts, but like the small version, not so much.
Yeah, it just I don't know, it just always seems dumb to me in art, and I just never have. It's probably the only one I've never really chose for a character. There's although that being said, one of the more powerful magic weapons that we've ever come up with is a sickle. It's that balance of life and death, which I was giving out like candy at the D&D castle. Man, I used so many because we were they're leveling up so fast. And there was 6 people. It was like, here, for so many magic. That thing's really powerful. I think you froze.
Yeah, sure.
Again. Oh no, there you go. You popped in. But yeah, so many other weapons I think are super.
We've done a variety of things.
You're going in and out.
Am I disappearing again?
You were, but it looks like it's stable now. So we can jump back with the good times, bad times question, which I don't actually know the answer to. Maybe you do.
Okay.
Does great weapon fighting style apply to two-handed versatile? Oh, nope, that's gone. He's going to try it again. Well, maybe when he comes back, he'll answer that question, but I'm going to read it anyway. Does great weapon fighting style apply to two-handed versatile weapons, hammers, longsword, etc.? I assume not, but probably depends on the table and such. Well, I'll look it up. Why not? The show must go on. It's all about the language that it uses. What are you talking about? Fighting style? Is that what you said? Yes, fighting style. Okay. So we go to fight here. Great film. You're really trying to do a melee weapon that you are wielding with 2 hands. Well, yeah. It would apply to those if you're wielding them with 2 hands. Oh, no, wait.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes. I would rule it as I would rule as long as you've got the weapon swinging that particular swing with both hands.
Yeah.
Why? But if you drop off a hand and you're swinging one hand, it would not apply.
Yeah, totally. That seems clear as day to me after reading. I just didn't know what the fighting style said explicitly.
Yeah, I thought that's what it was. I was actually going to look it up, but you got that.
Yeah, I did. That's what I did.
That's what I did. But I mean, it's interesting, and it's one of those things that's a little bit diverse. I think most people who wind up taking that particular fighting style, they're using the great axe, the maul, the club, or the everyone's favorite, the great sword. But apply to the others, even pole arms.
Yeah. Let's see. Yes. Playing politics. All right, we
kind of already touched on it.
I'm going to go to my bullet point list. So one of the things that's interesting, and this comes up a lot, I'd say just about every other week on a regular schedule anymore, is with our CBGs, the creature versions. So, we make a lot of monsters, and I'm sure know this too, but if anybody listening. And, a lot of that is researching existing stuff just to get a baseline. And high CR martial humanoids are very rare. There's not a lot of them, and it's because of their weapons. I think it's just, like you have to. There's one of two things you can do. You can either give them a bunch of traits that bump up the damage, along with multi-attack, and then the higher the CR goes, it just gets ridiculous. Where you're like, they would have to attack like 8 times or something, or you just have to give them like a special weapon or attack that only works for them. And I just did this with the Sling Master. Because it was a low CR, and obviously we wanted them to have a sling, but it's still, you got to think like, okay, well, even if it's a CR 3, that means it has to take on 4 third level characters. So I just called it a sheriff sling, because I was like, well, I can give him a bunch of traits, like he gets plus from this and he gets plus from this, because it's based on the character. Or it's just a sling, it does extra force damage, and it knocks you back 5 feet. Or if you fail, if you don't, and if you fail save, it knocks you prone or something like that. So that's interesting. And that's always weird though. Like then the players are like, can we use that? It's like, no, it only worked for them. Unless you're feeling generous, then go for it.
That's one of those things that, again, it's going to fall to like, a DM interpretation, a thing of, well, is it a magic item that's allowing it to do this? Or is that person, kind of trained? I mean, you can take the battle master's abilities and apply them to NPCs and have them do that kind of stuff to characters. It's not a magic item. It's a thing that they do. And, God bless you for doing all of the awesome things that you've done for the creature types with our CBGs.
Oh yeah, that's one of the funnest things, honest to God, of all the stuff we do. It's challenging sometimes. You're like, man, I'm going to make this new creature, but we work together on those, and usually I just listen to your guys's video of like the NPC thing. I'm like, okay, how can I make that? But that's just a lot of fun. I like doing the CBGs. They're pretty cool.
Well, there's definitely we've made quite a lot of them, and they are a lot of, not only kind of get through the crunch, but then when you get to the NPC of like, all right, how do we make this, and how as a GM do you wind up using it, and sometimes we make things that are very heavy weapon oriented, and other times it's very fun and flavorful. That's like, all right, here's the real thing. And some of them, like when you get to the NPCs, it's like, oh, well, it could be this or it could be that. And we don't ever discuss those options before we turn the camera on. It's always just like what's on the tip of our tongue. So sometimes like I surprise myself, or Dave surprises me, or I surprise him. I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea. And it gets my, like, man, now I want to do this, and now I want to do that.
Oh, that was totally the case with that Sling Master. You guys had talked, part of it, the build is an artificer battlesmith, so they get like the robot dog basically. And just like a halfling sheriff with a robot dog was the inspiration for that. So he's got a deputy defender instead of a steel defender.
Nice.
So that
does he call him deputy?
Yeah, it's the deputy. So he's a Shire Reeve, so he just keeps the peace in the Shire with his robot dog. But yeah, those were a lot of fun. I forget. Totally lost whatever I was going to say there. One thing I looked up just for curiosity's sake was how many weapons there are, like official weapons.
Sure.
Not magical weapons. There's 57. That doesn't count, that does count things where there's like pistol, and then like the pistol that's in Wildmount book and stuff that's slightly different. So there's variations on things. But
okay.
But still, I thought that was a lot. And
go
ahead.
Does that count the ridiculous things in the player's handbook, like your laser guns?
Oh yeah, and the DMG like antimatter rifle and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, all you College of Creation bards out there that doesn't cost that costs under the gold piece for what you can create. So have fun with that in your next game. Create some antimatter rifles and 10d10 necrotic damage or whatever it is flat.
Yeah, I'd certainly veto that in my game. Yeah, your character.
I would, if somebody
create.
sprung that on me, I'd be like, come on, that's BS, man. But like if in a certain in context, I could see that being fun. Like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, and
I could.
imagine trying to pull that
I could
stuff.
totally see ripping off that mechanic for like a dream sequence, dream scape too, of just like they
sure
can some things. It's like, well, that's easy mechanics. Sure, you can imagine anything that's just use those calculations, whatever it is.
So, all right. So now let's take something off of my list.
Yeah.
I know you've done a lot of GMing and you've done a lot of things that are one shots, but if you had to like kind of go back through your history as a player, do you have a favorite magic weapon that you've ever gotten as a PC?
No, actually, that was a point on mine. I was thinking about that, racking my brain all day, and I never have. And it's like I think maybe that's why I like making them up and thinking about them so much, because it's like I wish and giving them out when I'm the DM, because I don't think I ever have had like a really special magical weapon. I've like that dragoon and stuff was really good with the spear, but and we started at high level, so we just got to like we had X amount of gold to buy stuff, so I just bought like the best spear that enhanced it. Oh, how 3.5 was. It was like, which splat book is that? Okay, yeah, that's
yeah.
The one that makes me jump further and do more damage.
For me,
good.
Am I still here? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So for me, it's actually really easy. It actually goes back into the my second edition days is when I found the item, was playing the character in our transition from second into third. You've ever heard me talking about my Elven Undead Slayer?
No, I don't think I
Tull
ever.
Thagonar, and he was the wielder. Oh well, Tull was amazing. I loved him. Dave totally killed me as a second level character, and I got resurrected or what have you, by the dude in town. Character saw many things where it was like, this close to permadeath, but again, like so many other campaigns, we kind of like stopped and never went back to it. But I would pick up that character in a heartbeat. But he wielded Alana Pathwa, which was a long sword, and I don't know where Dave came up with the name, but Alana Pathwa is like eternal rest or eternal peace, and it was a +0, +3 versus undead, which was a rather unheard of, kind of weapon things. Usually, it's like, all right, aren't magic items supposed to be like a +1 normally? It's like it as a magic weapon for things that needed magic, but it offered no bonuses unless it was undead. But there were other things like that this thing could
in
do.
5e, they just word it different. It would just say like, if you strike an undead with this, it does blah blah blah. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, it basically be this magic longsword counts as a +3 weapon when versus an undead, foe. But so it would count as it's a magic, therefore no bonuses. But whatever. One of those things, like there was just something about finding the weapon, all of these things. It was basically, I had gotten the idea that it was more powerful and there were more powers to be unlocked if I played, like if we had kept the story going, there were things that were going to be done. I know that there was something about destroying a lich or a vampire or something somewhere in that story. But there was just something.
I'm gonna use this sword to do it. Right.
But there was something about the visuals on the weapon. And I can't exactly recall, but I just have this, this fondness there with, that character, that weapon. It was just mwah, love it.
I like to name weapons, and I think that's just because I got hooked on those Fafford and Grey Mauser stories when I was a kid, because they would just always name their weapons the same thing. They weren't magical or anything. They just like Mauser always called like his dagger cat's claw and his rapier, I forget. I just thought that was cool. And like Vent did that. Like none of his weapons were magic, but they was like claw, bite, and tail, I think.
Yes, claw, bite, and tail.
Yeah.
And see, like to me, like I looked at those things, and I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
But like I like to think that is how some items become magical.
Yeah, totally.
Somebody has bred personality into it before it was magic. So like I would take those kind of things, and after something fabulous happens, like you do something really cool, or like you kill a legendary foe or what have you, like the essence of that creature gets put into the weapon that felled it. And now it's magical. Bite becomes a thing. Like what?
So yeah. Oh yeah, dude. I love doing stuff like that. That's way cooler. As a GM, I like doing that because it's fun. And as a player, I think it's when I'm the player and that happens, it's way awesomer than finding something, because it's like, wow, man, like you feel like I did it, like like it was my deeds that made that happen and stuff. Yeah, that's awesome.
So like if I get to play a character and start off with magical items, like if I have this is a +1 thing, I tend to do something with that.
Yeah.
For instance, going back to Thorgarn, Thorgarn has a warhammer, and I was actually kind of telling you this, last week, that he has a warhammer from one of his party members who had fallen previously. Well, according to his character sheet, it's a +1 warhammer, no big deal. But that warhammer has a name. I call it Faithkeeper. The priest who had it before him called it Faithkeeper. That's just how it goes. Like that's what to do.
Sure. Yeah.
So to have those things, it might not mean anything beyond, it's just a thing. If something were to happen and Thorgarn were to get a better off weapon, because I doubt I'm going to find anything better than Forge Fane.
Yeah. At this point,
yeah. Like I would not get rid of Faithkeeper. Like I would take it back to the church. Like I would have to hold on to it because there's history there. It's got a name. It's got a someone it belonged to.
Absolutely, that stuff's never a waste. Even if you just made a note on your character sheet and or under weapons or something, like in quotes, because like all those little details are just anything that you can pull on anytime when you're a player, and to be role playing, right? I mean, like how you think about things, and your weapon, like we're talking about weapons. So yeah, I mean that's a perfect example. It's like say you're a folk hero, that's on my mind because we did some posts about it and stuff like that. I mean, and the Sling Master was a folk hero, and that was the whole point of the thing, was just like that's the sling that made them a hero, and it's like of course they're gonna it's important to them and stuff, and might have a name or that was the sort of narrative thread that we found, like wow, like what else can I do with this, and that's what led them on their journey to
so if you want to take away the ridiculousness of the kid with a sling who felled a giant, what if you got a sling and you wound up scaring off a pack of wolves from the kids that were playing on the edge? Like, all right, well maybe now you've got a sling that's called Wolfsbane. Like that could be kind of a cool thing, and that's what you take throughout. And perhaps you wind up going into Ranger and you take favorite enemy beasts, and you wind up doing a thing, and you wind up finding some mutated beasts and you fight them, and now the legend of this sling gets bigger and badder, and your legend gets bigger and badder, and eventually like that could be a thing, and you hand that down and your kid does something and that kid does something.
Although to be fair, being the variant human with the crusher feet, if there was a giant at the edge of a cliff and he hit it with the sling, had to move it back 5 feet, falls to its death, that would be pretty. That would make you a folk hero for sure.
I think you'd be higher level though for killing a giant though.
That's true.
That's a
Well,
lot.
that's what gave you enough XP to become a first level character.
That's what it takes to become first level.
It's a big leap, man. Take that leap. You got to do something for that guy anyway.
Well, whoo.
And you didn't kill him. The bullet in the fall did. That's a quote. That's a quote from a Tom Cruise movie, Collateral. Did you ever see that?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
just
been a
kill
while.
that guy. It's like, I didn't kill him. The bullets in the fall did. Let's see. Oh, this is just a sort of an anecdote, but there's Final Fantasy comes up. The MMO Final Fantasy 14.
Okay.
The whole system of that is you can change your class basically anytime depending on switching your weapon. I just thought that was kind of a cool thing to mention. So like if you want to be a marauder, which is basically a fighter, like then you have an axe. If you want to be a pugilist, then you put on like brass knuckles and stuff like that. And it gives you all your new abilities and stuff. So
right.
You can change. I just thought that was
so you just swap out weapons and you're now a different class?
Yeah, and you could just do it like anytime. I mean, you could be like not in the middle of a fight, but like any other time, literally. You just change your equipment. It's like yeah. So really, you can take the same character and go like you max out all the classes, and you don't have to like make a new character to play a different thing.
It's been a while since I've looked at any the Final Fantasy stuff, and I did very little with the Final Fantasy Online, whatever version it was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, probably
a lot of cool weapons in Final Fantasy that people and just jack classes and things to model characters have. Like I said, the Dragoon, the spear is a class.
I mean, to me, there is no
mage with his rapier.
To me, there was no better character than Kain in any of the Final Fantasies that I played.
He was a Dragoon, right?
Yeah, he was a Dragoon. Yeah. Fought with a spear.
Mm-hmm.
You were gunning for Gungnir as soon as you possibly could. That was the thing.
Oh yeah, like Odin's spear. Yeah, they delve into
Yep. But of course, by the time when I got it, I knew nothing about Norse mythology because I mean, Final Fantasy II was a long time ago for me.
You didn't have legends and lore. You didn't have your orange spine easily.
No, not at that point. Like I mean, I had some of those books, but like I wasn't really reading them. And
I probably learned about Norse mythology from Final Fantasy and Legends and Lore, and to a lesser extent, Marvel Comics.
Well, true. But all of that for me came later. I got into.
Hey, real quick to Dreadbolt, he says Ted's and Doug's when doing. Doug's and Ted's when I'm going to guess you just came in, and if that's the only problem that you're detecting, then I'm going to say hooray for us.
Nope. I'm Doug now. I'm I'm Nerditor. That's the darkest head over there. That is entirely my fault.
Whatever. It happens. I'll steal your celebrity. Yes, I'm Nerdarchist Ted now.
So yeah. It is what it
is. We're getting close to the end. One thing I definitely want to mention. What are you laughing at? I thought something. One thing I definitely wanted to mention was that we have created quite not only many magic weapons, but several new mundane weapons, and two new weapon properties that are in Mage Forge Volume 1 that I think are awesome, which we actually repurposed from the Nerdarchy Vault. And those are weapons made of exotic materials like manticore spines, remoraz spines, troll shoulder blades, umber hulk tusks, ankheg mandibles. I've always thought these were cool. I just found these like in the Google Drive like years ago in a doc. I was like, man, these are awesome. So cool. So there's two weapon properties. There's gliding, which are for like boomerangs, and thrown weapons that they basically can go further and stuff like that. And savage, which cause tearing wounds that, what do they do? Oh, basically has great weapon master on it. So that's pretty cool. Like the effect, like re-rolling ones and stuff like that to demonstrate that. But I always thought those were pretty cool. I think we even used the Remoraz spine sword in the Fane and the Frostworm thing, which is like a barbarian class freebie thing that we put out. But I always thought those were cool, and I like the art that Nelson did of the different weapons manufactured from monster parts. And it has a cool NPC.
And
I always thought that was neat.
I'm all about, that kind of stuff. I love having, weapons and armor and that kind of stuff made from that.
Oh yeah.
And there's a number of books out now that have some elements to that kind of style of, here's how to harvest and here's how to craft. And so I'm like looking to try and acquire these things and kind of make up my own version of, take all the different pieces that I like.
Well, to address Dreadbolt's comment that he really enjoys the idea of special properties for weapons, then you should totally go get Mage Forge Volume 1. And you can get it for free. If you sign up for the newsletter, you get $9.99 store credit. Boom. You'll even have credit left over. So there you go. You're welcome.
And since we're talking about the newsletter, I will kind of throw this out there that, next week is, where we kind of announce our monthly giveaway, which, I've got probably over $100 worth of minis in a box. Per Dave, I'm going to throw one of the copies of the Ravenloft into the aforementioned pile.
The special cover?
I have to see which one I've got on the shelf here.
Okay. I thought you just pulled that one. I was like,
this particular one is mine, which is why it's
the
giveaway pile. But I do have a special edition copy and a regular edition copy over there for sure to
nice
away. So per Dave, I am going to be adding these into the next 3 giveaways. So in addition to whatever else is on the roster, it's going in there.
Man, so you get a free gift and $9.99 store credit, giveaways, monthly games, and deals and stuff for your games in your inbox every week. Is that what you're saying, Ted? For just
that is what I'm
merely signing up for Nerdarchy the newsletter?
Yeah, signing up for the newsletter, you're going to get access to all the stuff that we send out. Once a week. We get our additional thoughts on the topics that we talk about here. You're going to get access.
I know Ted, he probably already wrote the next 3. So, did you make up a magic weapon or a new weapon?
I did make up a magic weapon, and I'm not going to talk about it at all here. Sure. You'll have to see, for the newsletter, what cool legendary magic item that I made. I think it's.
Speaking of for this week's or last week's, I get so confused. But anyways, Brian Smith, who's usually in the chat, had asked us to make a mustachioed devil, so I did that.
A mustachio devil, huh?
Yeah, because we're in the hell news.
Okay. Well, I've got hell armor and weapon already written.
Nice.
So I think hell already went out. I think.
Yeah. So we get this. Yeah. So there's still time. Signs usually go out Thursday, Friday. So this week's newsletter will be armor, and then next week's will be this.
And again, I made a magic item for armor. Pretty happy with what I've created. So if you want to get some free magic items, those are guaranteed. Just checking your email from us. But as Doug says, you can sign up for the newsletter, get $9.99 worth of digital stuff for free, and then a chance to, be entered into our monthly games that we do, as well as the monthly giveaway, which most of these days it's somewhere between $100 and $200, if not even more. It used to be game for $50, and the giveaway pile seems to be getting bigger faster than it can get smaller. So I might need to step up even more. I don't know.
Get $1,000 worth of stuff. Maybe we'll do multiples giveaways a month. Who knows?
I mean, that could be a thing. Who knows?
We do have a lot more people, on the newsletter.
I mean, we've given away, over $500 or $600 worth of stuff a couple of times. There's saved for our annual holiday thing, which goes out, in January. We pay 2 of the Invisible Sun Black cubes, which has
that's crazy
SRP of $300. So, yeah.
I've been thinking about your question from earlier about having a favorite or special. I think I would say Vents, just because I really like that character in the game we played, and they weren't magical or anything, and in lieu of never having had any super duper magical weapons that I can think of. That was probably the most like significant weapon choices I ever made. Like I thought it was cool that they fought like that, like you would stab with the, because they did the same kind of damage as the dragon attack. Although I quickly realized, like, damn man, that Storm Herald sucks as a 2-weapon barbarian because they got to use their bonus action to do their aura. Other kinds of barbarians are pretty good, but yeah, at any rate, I love that character in the game, so this meant a lot to me to fight with those. I even passed up getting that magical one and gave it to Steven's character because I was like, nah, I like these.
Well, I mean, that's all, part and parcel of, the character choice. I mean, there are times where
I don't make what you would call good mechanical choices when I play.
Well, I mean, sometimes like you have to make the choice that your character would make, even if it's not.
It's what my character would do.
Yeah, like that's what you have to, like. Sometimes people are like, oh, well, it's not what my character would do because they're looking to try and do something more beneficial. Where sometimes, like, nah, it's fun to actually make the choice of that's not what my character would do, and you're making the worst choice.
Yeah.
Because you're sticking to the theme of your character. And there's times in games that I've played in house and online that are like, nope, there's nothing I can do here. I'm just going to do this instead. Or, you know what? No, I'm going to give this magic item to the guy next to me too. And, as a kind of a selfless plug for your game tomorrow, that's actually happened in the ingest. My character keeps finding magic items. I'm like, nah, here you go. Nah, here you go.
Yeah. I'm not like too much of a hoarder when it comes to items. I do like magic items that do cool stuff, like wondrous items and things like that, but just straight up power. Although I will say, I mean, it is fun to have like a staff of power or something like that, or a vorpal sword.
I will say I'm an absolute whore. If it's something that I can use, yes, I want it. If it's rationalized that somebody else in the party would get more use out of it, or it's more themed appropriate for somebody else, then by all means, I'm gonna pass it along. But you have something that looks like it's geared for my character and nobody else is fighting me for it. Oh, hell's yeah, I'm gonna take
it. I will say my favorite D&D weapon story, I've told this a bunch too, so I'm going to indulge myself since you did, is from 2nd edition AD&D, and the DMG had like how to make your own class. And my childhood best friend and I made a whip master class that was just really awesome with the whip and could do all kind of tricks and stuff. That guy grew up to be a Guinness Book World Record holding multiple time whip master in real life. And here I am making D&D stuff. So that's pretty awesome. I think that's probably my favorite.
You're saying the person you made the character with went on to be in the Guinness Book?
Yeah, he has like 3 for like most whip cracks in a second or in a minute and stuff. He like juggles.
You're saying the friend.
Yeah, in real life he's a whip master. Yeah, Aaron Bonk. You can Google him.
Impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. We just really thought they were cool.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we all have to remember that, like we grew up watching Indiana Jones and how awesome the whip was. So, yeah, I understand. And
and if you want to play a character that's a whip master,
around with the whip and hurt.
If you want to play a character that wields a whip, just go for it, man. You're only giving up a few incremental points of damage, which in my experience really doesn't matter that much.
Robin played a paladin who used a whip and
nice.
So that was definitely a thing. They had a lot of fun with it, and it's totally a viable thing.
Sure.
And like
does as much as a dagger, right? What isn't it 1d4?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a
dagger. You might only be a couple of points, here or there on the average damage. But like, how badass is it to be like walking around and play just like,
yeah. Especially when you're a paladin, right? You can smite people.
So we're at 9:00. Is there any last last things that you want to throw out there?
No, I feel pretty satisfied with our discussion on D&D weapons.
All right, so you can tune back in tomorrow at noon. You can go ahead and watch Dave do his interview thing, as well as join us back here tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Hopefully, I'll have my net issues fixed by then, and you'll be able to have Dave, not Dave, Doug, guide us through Ingest Quest using Quest and some amazing characters. I was looking forward to hanging out with these awesome people, as well as you guys in the chat.
Absolutely. So until next time, I guess
I will throw this out there. Stay nerdy.
Oh, even got it with the